That's
You
okay.
published a really interesting article where you brought attention to farmers with disabilities in Niger State who've got no access to, public benefits such as, government-sponsored programs like machineries, um, manual, funding, and other form of support that they could get within the agricultural sector. So, and that's really profound because oftentimes we don't think about it. The perspective that we have of persons with disabilities is that they are not economically empowered. And so you brought our attention to the fact that, you know, persons with disabilities are economically empowered and, public systems should be designed for them. But I'm really curious to find out, why did you come up with that? How did you discover that?
Okay, what really happened was that when the government do announce about giving subsidy on farm input and the rest, but even the ordinary
Yeah.
person do not get access to this. So something
Mm,
while I was doing a little research on what to really pitch for on the project I wanted to work on. So it now came to my mind, okay, what if we as full humans are facing this difficulty? Then what are the difficulties being faced by people with disability, especially those in
mm,
the rural areas, those in the communities? So that was what prompted me to go into asking this question, visiting the local government to meet these people with disability and ask them how they've been able to access or not access these programs and projects of the government. That was just what
mm.
prompted me to write the report.
Oh, great. And can you actually remind me of the community? There was a particular community you made reference to in the article. Can you let us know, like, the
I
community?
yeah yeah I visited about 4 local governments. I visited
All local governments, and they're all
yes
in
in
Niger
Niger
State. Is that
State.
correct?
Yes, in Niger State, yes. So I visited Wushishi local government, I visited
Okay.
Kotongora, I visited Lafun, and I visited Bako local government areas. Yes.
Great. And so now, that would lead us to the next question. What do you think the role of the media is in disability advocacy in Nigeria, particularly looking at the problem? And it's not just about the agricultural sector. It scopes beyond that. It scopes beyond that. What would you think the media plays in accelerating
Yeah,
this
I
change?
think the media has been able to accelerate the voices of the people with disability in Nigeria. First, because they've been able
Mm,
to shape public perceptions. In the past, people know these people as, okay, you just see someone, you say someone is blind, someone is deaf, and the rest. But
yeah,
now people are now being enlightened, and instead of calling them
yeah.
these names, they call them people with disabilities. So I think the
Mm,
media has been able to play that role, and the media also played a very great role in ensuring the passage of the People with Disability Act, Discrimination Against People with
discrimination
Disability
against
Act.
people.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
they played a very great role because there were media campaigns, there were advocacies. The media created a platform where these people with disabilities could come and air their voices and speak about what they are going through. And they started
Mm,
pushing to ensure that we know how
mm,
many years it took before the act came to play. So the media
yeah.
played that great role, and the media has been able to
Mm,
increase visibility of people with disability. Like there've been a lot of talk shows. I'm sure in some TV stations there are some shows that
yeah.
um, designated for them. Like I know in Niger State here, there's Prestige FM. One of the person with disability, he runs a show in local language every week. So the media have
Oh,
been able
great.
to give them that platform, yes. So I've been able to give them that platform to be able to speak about their challenges, let people know about their challenges and the rest.
Mm, That's wonderful. And oftentimes when we talk about the role of the media, we I don't know if it's a Nigerian or an African problem, but there's this saying that there is no you can't make a decision about us without us, something like that. Something like that. It goes like that. And oftentimes you don't really find persons with disabilities or persons who are affected in general who tell their own stories. They are always reported stories. Does that make sense? Like I remember when we were growing up, we would say, oh, Nigerian history. We don't really have so many Nigerians who have written about Nigerian history. We have, the British, we have people from other parts of the world who have written about our own history without us being featured in it. So don't you think that, or I know, I love the fact that you also mentioned Prestige FM, which is something that we definitely look into, but don't you think that we need more persons with disability or more platform for persons with disabilities to not just tell their stories, but to also leverage the media to contribute to their upliftment or to contribute to a level playing field for them? Don't you think so?
Yes, I think so. But another thing is that one thing is another is to sensitize them and make them aware of the need for them to do this. Because even while I had to go, even doing my reports, I knew the way I had to go to locate some of these people with disabilities in the communities. It was not easy because okay, I thought I wanted to go through a more formal way, asking them if there was register for people with disabilities. So maybe I can just call them to locate them. But I realized there was no register of any of them. So I had to now go to the grassroots and start meeting community leaders. Okay, is there any person with disability in your community? I would like to speak with the person. So it was these community leaders or people in the community that were taking me around the houses. So several of them were just saying, okay, I don't even know about any program. What I have to do is just go and farm, pay people or children to clear the grasses for me. I'm not aware of any program. I don't hear of anything about government. I don't know of anything. So especially those in the grassroots, they need to be sensitized. I think the platform is there because there are several media organizations that are ready to give them that platform. But how many of them are coming out to speak about what they are facing? That's another challenge that they need to also overcome.
Hmm. Okay, that's wonderful. Just a couple of days ago, we were at a local government in Lagos where we trained them on, we had a conversation, it was a workshop on road accessibility. It's improving the quality of our roads to make them accessible to persons with disabilities and make them safe as well. And we noticed this same problem that you have highlighted, the need to sensitize people because there's so many programs ongoing, there's so many initiatives ongoing, but the people are not sensitized about them, so they don't even get involved. They don't even know how to hold their leaders accountable. They don't know how to tap into these programs. Aside from, we understand that the government, they have a lot of work to do in terms of designing these interventions to be easily accessible. But most importantly, the people affected need to be sensitized on all of these things. And that will now take us to the next question. We've been thinking, like in your view, yeah, how effective do you think the media has been in holding policymakers and program implementers accountable for including persons with disabilities in social programs? And I
Yes,
think
I
this
think
also this yeah. Yeah, because this
okay.
spans, I think this spans beyond just the fact that we are reporting the problem, but the fact that we know that these affected persons have access to the media to amplify their voices when some of these needs are not being met, even after it's being reported by the media. What role do you think you can play or the media can play?
Yeah, the media can play in like going to meet them because sometimes some people just do hearsay. You just hear one person saying, and this is what so people face in community. But I think when the media can go down to this community themselves to see what is being done, that is what we call tracking policy promises. You have to track
Tracking
these
policy
promises. Okay,
promises. Okay.
yes. So if the government said this is being done for this group of people, how do you ascertain that this is being done if you don't meet the people? So, and not just focusing on one. By the time you go to 1, 2, 3 places, you'll be able to have an idea of if the government have kept its promises or not, especially regarding disability inclusion. So, if the media can really go down to tracking policy promises, that is another way of saying holding the government accountable. And by bringing out issues affecting this media, people, the people with disability, they can also create public dialogue by ensuring that, to put pressure and ensure that some programs and policies are being some policies are being implemented, because a lot of promises are just there. A lot of policies are just there being said and nothing is done. But when the media keep upping and keep saying and saying, you have not done this, you have not done this, you have not done this. One thing I know the government really does not like is them, because I've been in the field for that long, is them being called out. So when you call them out for 1, 2, 3, especially at the local level, they tend to do what they promise, or try to put things in place to ensure that those things are implemented. So the media can do this, and they can also hold public dialogue. Okay, I've said they can hold public dialogue to bring these people together. So that this is going beyond your normal reporting, beyond the normal writing stuff. So when you hold public dialogue, you bring these people from the grassroots, not just those in the city areas. Those in the city areas, we know that some of them already aware of what is happening. But those in the communities are not even, from what I've discovered, they are not aware of a lot of things. So when you bring them and bring these government officials together, as the media can do that, because there've been a lot of fora that goes on like that. So when the media is able, if the media is able to bring this, they will be able to hear the voices of the people, and let the people also know why the government is not doing this. So you're creating another platform for them to ask their leaders questions. So the media can do that. And can also raise awareness going beyond the normal report. Social media is there, is like a worldwide space now. So when you post something, you tag the people you need to tag, and just create awareness so that people will know about what is really happening. So I think that's a way that the media can do this.
I think what you've said, you said quite a number of things that I find profound. And at the back of my head, I'm here thinking, how easy is it for example, one of the local governments that you mentioned during in that publication, how easy is it for those who are affected to easily reach out to the media and get the audience they deserve? Because there seems to be an imbalance between, let's say, profitability of medium, and also the sort of like, let's say, advocacy, or what we would call as, the public good. So at least from my experience, and also you would agree with me that from my experience, if you reach out to quite a number of media personnel that you want to put a particular story out there, even when it's a non-commercial story, um, at times you have to go through quite a number of orders, and some of them can be financial. And so I'm thinking it's easier for, let's say, an advocate, who runs in non-governmental organizations to pay, certain resources, or to have these stories out there. But do the people who are affected, do they have these same access? For example, the local communities that you mentioned, do they have that access to send you a message and say, oh, thanks for your publication last year, but as at now, even after that publication, we've still not gotten anything. Can you please amplify our voice our concerns again, and hopefully it gets the attention of the government this time. Do they have that access?
One thing I noticed is that they really do not have the access, because it's just few communities have community radios. And if there were community radios, it would give a lot of it will help them a lot in giving them voices, because this community radio will not even charge anything. It just, they need programs,
So
they
we have
need people to
community
come up.
radios.
Yes, but in
We have
some
community. Oh
communities
wow.
and not
Okay.
all communities. Yes.
Not all
Yes,
communities.
like
Okay.
in Lafun local government, there's a Lafun community radio. In I think Wushishi, there's also a community radio. In Kotongora, there is a
Okay.
community radio, but that is just 3 out of 25 local government areas. So that, yes, so that would have given them much room on getting access to the media. But some of them, even coming down to the town to access this media station, media organization, is taxable to them, because you have to put in transportation and other things. So that is one thing that makes it difficult for them to even access the media. And okay, now getting to the media, who do they know is sympathetic to their plight? Because you can meet a journalist and there are some financial ways that, or how will I put it? There are some financial, there's a side of the financials that needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
But there are also some journalists, there are also some journalists that can do this for you free of charge without charging anything. So it is another problem how to identify them. So that's another challenge for them. But but in a way, this gap can be bridged if there's community radio, or if they are able to come to town and access some of these radio stations, because I think radio station is more better for them to easily access, because sometimes journalists are not staying in one place. Like one day we can be here and not be here and the rest.
Yeah.
But when you get to these radio stations, you can ask and say, okay, I want this thing also to go out on print. And we also have relationship and collaboration with some of these radio stations. They just link them with us. Then we can now call the write their stories and the rest. And another way is also to send word out and say, okay, we want to do press conference, we want to issue press statements and the rest. I'm not sure that costs anything, because I know I've done a lot of them free of charge. So that does not cost anything. So I think it's just the sensitization and the awareness that yes, they can do this if they know how to go about it. But their challenge now is not knowing how to go about it, not knowing how to do it.
Yeah.
Yes, that's just it.
Okay, that I think I have a leading question from that, but I would hold it towards the end of the program. So now I want to ask, as regards to media strategies for effective advocacy, are there any particular campaigns or initiatives that stand out for you? Are you aware of anyone? I know there are quite a number of fellowships that that oblige the fellows to to design some of these advocacy programs, leveraging media, but are there any particular ones that stand out to you? I know you have one that you do, but I think it's focused on women. It's focused on women. But yeah, in terms of what you published around farmers with disabilities not having access to social subsidy, social programs and benefits. Are there any programs you're familiar with trying to solve this problem?
Yeah, there's a media organization that is focused mainly on people with disability, and is run by it's run by a female. It's called BO News. It's run by Miss Blessing
BO News.
Life. BO News. BO News.
News. Okay.
Yes. So anything about a lot of reports, all the reports they do mostly are about people with disability. Several of the reports, she has dedicated her time that she's going to use our platform to give a voice to them. So that is one initiative that, yes, that is one medium I so much respect. And she goes about trying to also sensitize them to bring their stories to our platform. Then, yes.
That's wonderful.
Then there are also, yes, she started, I think, some years ago, and she has kept on, but I think she still needs some funding because it's not that easy to run a media organization of that such. And yes, just mainly reporting on people with disability, inclusion, and the rest. So she's really focused on that, and she's dedicated and ensuring that even when she goes for training, the training is about how people can report more, how journalists can report more on people with disability, how people with disability can state their rights, how they can reach out to CSOs and the rest. So she has really created a room. Yes, she has created a room for herself in that area. Then another initiative I know is there's the Albino Foundation or something like that. I think yes, that deals with the rights of people with albino. So they bring out they try to bring out the challenges of people with albinism, what they face, the challenges, how some. I think it was from them I read that some communities kill or try to stigmatize these people because they feel that these people are like strangers or they fell from the moon and the rest. So they bring out a lot of this they try to debunk some myths and misinformation about people with albinism. Yes, so that foundation is in Abuja, it's based in Abuja, and is very key. Then in Niger State here, there's this foundation for people with disability. So the founder is the one who runs a program weekly on Prestige FM. So he speaks in the local dialect so that people will understand. Because recently, and they are currently even fighting a nurse who has disability, with a nurse with disability who got an employment with a federal medical center, and she did all the tests. She passed the test, everything, the screening and everything. But on her resumption day, she was posted to the federal medical center, and when it was realized that she had disability, that means she was visually impaired, they ceased the appointment and said she can't resume work. But even before then, she has also like been interning there and the rest. So that's what they are currently fighting, because they've given
that's really
they've
sad.
given the
I think
organization. Yes, it is. They've given the medical organization a deadline to recall the lady back, let her resume her work, because they said that she passed through medical school visually impaired. She did everything visually impaired, and she can perform her work, even if it's not giving injection or whatever. But there are other things she can do as a nurse.
Can do, yeah.
Yes, so that's the current battle they are facing. They are currently fighting to bring her back, to give her back her employment. So they are really fighting for the rights of people in Niger State here, and I think they are really pushing, because of them and because of the advocacy they've made, the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs had to create a desk office, I think, should I say, like a desk officer, had to put one of them in place as a desk officer, so that one can attend to any challenge that they are facing and bring it to the attention of the ministry. Yeah, so those ones are also, those are the initiative I know are really making waves.
Oh, that's remarkable. And talking about the initiative that you mentioned, I think I find them really, really interesting. And I'm thinking of the back of my head that how do we engage these organizations, or how do these organizations work with the media to engage the government to design a framework for the effective distribution of these social benefits, particularly to those who would otherwise be discriminated against. Because it, personally, don't quote me anywhere, don't quote me, but I believe that sympathy is not the best approach to development.
Mhm.
Sympathy is not the best approach. That's what I believe. And so, while on one side, it's really important that we take a sympathetic approach. Tell people stories and make it look like they're suffering, and like we should be talking about the positives. We should be talking about the implications of empowering these people. We should be talking about the implications not for them but also for the nation at large. And for us to do that, it has to be systemic. The change has to be systemic. We cannot address one problem at a time, or one person's experience, everyone's experience, like one at a time. We have to build a system in place that will be able to address all these issues at the same time. And so I think now my question is where the media comes in. I have one more question to ask, but I'm really curious about this. Like, where do you think the media comes in this regard? How do you think some of these organizations, or if if they have worked with the media, or they've worked with you, or you've worked with any of these organizations in the past, can you let me know to create systemic change? Now, I'm not just talking about reporting, problems as they arise, but you work with these organizations in order to amplify the need for systemic change, and what some of those changes need to be. Do we really have that?
I think they've not really gone into that, although I think one of the change that they are
Okay.
trying to really implement is the
Yeah.
implementation of the Discrimination Against People with Disability Act, because
Yeah.
there are a lot of clauses or a lot of things inside that act that is not being implemented at all. So I think
Yeah.
that is
Very true.
one that is yes, that is one of the push that these groups are trying to do. Like like one of the
Mm.
clause there is that when you are making a building, or all buildings should be
Mm-hmm.
compliant to people with
Accessible
disability, accessible with people
disabilities.
with
Yeah.
disability. But several of the
Yeah.
buildings, even those that are still being built, those still being approved, are not still being accessible to people with disability. Several of them.
Mm.
So I think most time, last year I did a report about that. How maybe by this
Mm-hmm.
year the people with disability will take the government to court or whatever. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm still waiting. I think they need to push that through. By the time they take the government to court and tell the government that, okay, yes, you said this in the act that by so I think by 2024, it's supposed to be 2024. By 2024, if this is not done, then every other person that is not doing this will be held liable. But nobody is being
Mm.
persecuted, nobody is being called out, and the rest. So I think with that push, if they can even start with that, there'll be if this act is being implemented, there'll be an overall systemic change. Because another clause in that act is that in all appointments, at least I think 5% or is it 10% slots should be given to people with disability.
Yeah. 5%.
But
Yeah.
it's
5%. Yeah.
5%. But still that there are a lot of employment being made that is not people with disability, you might not even see one or two of their names.
Yeah.
So I think the
Yeah.
systemic change we have to come from the main implementation of that act. So with that,
Mm.
the
Mm.
media, the people with disability who owns this initiative, even the CSOs, they can come around and have a talk about how to push this through so that it can
Mm.
really make headway. Because if not, we'll still keep going round and round and round and round. The reporters will report, the people with disability will shout and talk, and at the end of the day, nothing. But there need to be steps taken, definite steps to show that they are serious. By the time there's one or two steps taken, legal step is there. There are lawyers who can push this through, take this to court. Then the government will know that they are serious about this.
That's really good. So I have a question now to ask. Don't you think that media personnel in Nigeria or the media sector or industry in Nigeria needs a bit of disability competency training? Because the perception about disability and the way it's being reported, again, I think it's far from the reality. I'll give you an example of what I'm trying to say. We did a research and we found out that about the income of persons with disabilities. It was in Lagos, and the income of persons with disabilities in Lagos has increased by 27% within the last 5 years. And so when we report, or the media still reports, disability issues as pathetic, poverty-related issues, or sympathetic issues, then I think we have a problem, because the only way read persons in government, the only way they address that or they approach that problem is the way we have reported it. And once the sympathy is not there, or the political will is not there, then we probably will not get any change. So don't you think, from your experience, and I'm sure now that I've said it, I'm sure there are quite a number of headlines that you've read, that you've seen about persons with disabilities that actually tick the boxes. Don't you think?
Yes, it's needed. Yes, it's not as if I don't think. I know the media need a lot of training, especially media personnel, especially journalists, because I realized several times most of this training comes at the big cities and the rest, but several of these challenges come at the local level, at the state level, the local government level, and the rest. So when you are just training Abuja journalists, you are just training Lagos journalists. What about journalists in Maiduguri? What about journalists in Kaduna? What about they need this training. So another thing is, okay, yes, you can pick some group of people from the state, from some group of media personnel from the state, train them and give them funds to go down and step it down to their various states. It will help a lot, because several people will just, even when these people call for press statements, you see some people asking questions, okay, a blind man and the rest, but they have refused, they are not aware that, okay, you don't call them that again. There's a general name, there's a name that more dignifies them. So that's the training they need to undergo. Because also the way they portray them, not all of them are beggars. Because sometimes the media portray all people with disability as beggars.
Exactly my question.
So not all of them are beggars. Because yes, even when I was doing my report, there was a time I had to sit down and ask myself, and Justina, are you serious? Do you think someone with disability will farm? Are you sure? Are you serious? Are you sure you're not just going on a wild goose chase? What if by the time you go, you're not seeing any farmer with disability? I said, no. When I did research, I saw that, yes, there are farmers with disability in other countries. So when I went to the local government, I said, please, I'm looking for someone with disability that is farming. And they directed me to a lot of them. So you have to, and they said that most time when they go to these government agencies to go and get some of these inputs, they just push them away and say you came to beg. So even the public need to be aware of this, that not all of them are beggars. Several of them are. There are several of them that are educated. Some of them have masters. Some of them have degrees, and they are ready to work. But by the time they are going to offices, they just say, take this 200 now. You came to. It just make them feel less dignified. So the media has a great role to play, especially in letting the people know that you can't portray these people this way and that. And how do they do that? They do that through training. They do that through training. So training is needed. And most journalists, they can't train themselves. There's not even fun to even start saying, who is if the people come to the state to train them, they will really attend. But for them to say, okay, they are going for paid training on how to learn how to report this thing, several of them will not do that because some of them do not even have the funds to do that. You look at the accommodation, you look at transportation, and even paying the fees for the course. It's so tedious on them. But when these trainings are brought down to the grassroots, and you are training grassroots journalists, you are training journalists at the state, you are leaving our big centers and coming to train those who are really reporting the issues, then I'm sure this problem will be addressed. So yes, training is key if you want to really address this systemic challenge in reporting people with disability.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's really, really. I'm really glad that you agree with me. So it's and in your words, it's not a wild goose chase for us because we've noticed this and we think that that needs to change. And that would take me to a different question. I know you're not a politician, but you made mention of the role that the media played in ensuring that we have the Discrimination Against Persons with Disability Act 2018 currently, right?
Yes.
From our research, what we also discovered is we lack a cross-reference. And what a cross-reference means is now we have the act. We have several acts across different, government agencies. That's the truth. But how does this translate, or how does this lead to a revision in the other acts that we have that make us a nation, if that makes sense? I'll give you a really good example. So now we say that 5% of your recruitment should be persons with disabilities. For example, let's talk about immigration now, right? If there's an ongoing, recruitment in Nigerian Immigration Service, how do we ensure that in that act, what we have in the Disability Act, translates into a policy in the Immigration Act as well, and saying that for every recruitment that we do, 5% must be persons with disability. Now, the media plays a huge role in that. Don't you think so?
Yes, the media plays a huge role in that because I think one of the key things the media can do is setting agenda. So, and that's one thing that, yes, that is one thing that this training can help journalists to realize. So when something like this is coming up and the media start talking, okay, you are making recruitment, how many space are you keeping for people with disability? What is the percentage? Let's know the quota you are giving to people with disability. And there's noise here in this state, there's noise in social media, on television, on print, and everything. And if also there's one, because apart from even the media, using the media, you can reach out to these representatives like House of Reps, the Senate, reach out to them, and that is these people with disability or CSOs initiative, they can reach out to them. And we know that once these upper chambers, once they pass a law, once they declare something and it's passed on the floor of the House or the floor of the Senate or House of Reps, it automatically takes precedence. So if they can also rally these legislators, let them know the need, why they need to pass these laws, why they need to also raise their voice towards it. And this can be done with the combination of through advocacy, pay advocacy visits to them, paying advocacy visits to them, or forming this policy dialogue I spoke about, bringing the legislators and these people with disability. And from there, they start talking and there's discussion, and one or two we take this very personal, and by the time they go to the floor of the House, this is what happened, these people are not doing this, we need them to do it. So, and by that, you've made a policy is passed, and if nothing is done, that is a problem. So this the forum, bringing them together, the legislators and the people with disability or the initiative, bringing them together, or paying advocacy visits to them, it will bring the angle of the government realizing that this thing, because to them they've packed it and they expect that the relevant authority implements it. So what do you do
Yeah.
to let them know that this thing is not being implemented? It's through this aspect, through this way. So if this can be done, it will go a long way. It will help a lot in also bringing the government attention to ensure that this is being done. So when something like custom is being done, in employment in immigration, employment in civil defense, employment in the army, they will ensure that these people are also taken along.
Wonderful, wonderful. I think that's really great. That's quite profound. Thank you so very much for that. Um, I said I was going to keep a question for last, right?
Okay.
And it's quite a straightforward question, to be very honest with you. When you were speaking, you made mention of, I asked the question about accountability, and you said something about, I think there's a form of journalism, you called it, where you investigate, you try to find out. I think there's something you called it. Trying to remember when we talked about accountability, holding the government accountable, and I asked the question that, okay, for example, now we have, like, news headlines, oh, the government did not do this, persons with disabilities who are farmers do not have access to social programs because they're not designed, and we've reported it. But the question is, how often do we do a follow-up to ensure that this problem has been resolved, right? How often do we do a follow-up? Now, don't you think that the media has a responsibility for every headline? For every headline, the media has a responsibility to see it through to the end. Because often what we get is, oh, this is the problem, this is what's going on, and this is it. We don't write about it. People are not giving feedback about the progress of, we don't really get lots of like follow-up reports as regards that issue. Don't you think that's something that should be looked into as well, and maybe factored into the training that we are talking about?
Yes, I think it's something that needs to be done, because yes, you have written something, and what is the next thing? What is being implemented? So
Yeah.
when the journalists are educated about, or sensitized about this, they know they need to do follow-up. It might not be a follow-up
Yeah.
that you have to write about, but just like a follow-up, 1 or 2 calls. Alpha, okay, like what I did after my report.
Yeah.
I heard that after I heard, whenever I hear the government is sharing 1 or 2 things, I call some of them because I have to get their contact. I call them and say, okay, look, in the state capital, the government is sending so to your local government. Can you confirm? Maybe you call 1 or 2 of your leaders and ask about it. So let's know whether
Yeah.
you are getting this or you are not getting this. So sometimes some
Yeah.
of them will say, okay, like the one that happened, there was this sharing of rice and other foodstuff was sold at subsidized rates. So I had to call
Subsidized
them
rate.
and
Yeah.
yes. So in the state, so I had to call them and say, oh, they said this and this is happening, rice, millet, and other things. Please go to your state secretariat. It's being sold at the state secretariat, but it is not free. You have to pay half of the money. So go there. If let me know if you are not getting it. So I know
So
some
if
of
they're not
them
getting
went
it, do
and
you then do a reporting? Do you report that? Is there a report, a follow-up report?
yes, for me, for now, I've not heard
Yeah.
any who said
Okay.
they didn't get, because
Okay.
some
Okay.
said yes, they
Okay.
went there. Some said they went there. Although I did a report about people going and not getting, the first set of people that went, they got, all of them just bought rice and they left other food stuff for other people. So many of them went and said, they couldn't get rice. They said it was only corn, it was only maize, and they said beans was not available. So I had to ask and say, well, how come beans is not available? And they said they've not shared beans to them for sale. So I was able to know about that. So I was also able to know that they've consumed all the rice, that all the old rice is finished. So anybody that is going there is going to buy maybe millet and the rest. So I wrote that report. But how did I get the report? It was from information from people. And I also visited one or two places close by to me and discovered that, yes, the rice was exhausted. They told me that in the first 1-2 days, everybody was just rice. So I was able to get that information. So I think it also behoves to us to share information with them. If we don't share information with them, we won't get information. So I think it's a kind of give and take. When you share the information, they feed you back. Or you call them and say, okay, what is happening? The government says this and this and this. Do you get it? Or what exactly is what are you facing now? Like I know some of my colleagues are reporting on the health aspect, how people with disability are accessing health care. Ask them how do they, yes, how, like I think there was an organization that did a report about that recently. So how do you access health? Do people shout on you when you go to the hospital and the rest? So it's just I think it's just a responsibility journalists need to imbibe upon them. Because yes, it's not mandated that you do it, but it's something that if you do it, the government will be aware of it. So even when I was posting it, yes, even when I was posting it on my social media also, I said something about maybe next time the government should make rice more than any other food so that people will be able to. No,
Why
it
is
is
that?
true. Because I think that is what the people want more than maize or millet or whatever. So if you make that more, people will be able to get it and be able to, it will make an impact to them. So I think that's just, yes, follow-up is key. But it's something the journalist needs to make up his or her mind that when I'm doing this report, I'll follow up. And it will, just to ensure that the government knows how impactful they are or how this report has been able to bring a change or not.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's really great. Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much for that. It's really been great discussing this
You're
really
welcome.
important issue with you, and we've been able to get quite a number of cues. Um, I so for those who are listening, I'm sure some of you may have questions. So what you're going to do is please do feel free to send in your questions to salthouseafrica@gmail.com. Again, Salt House Africa. That's SALTHOUSEAFRICA@gmail.com. And we definitely will get your questions across to Ms. Justina and also get the responses back to you. But yeah, thank you so very much for this. It's been quite insightful, and hopefully we're able to have conversations with your colleagues who are working on, accelerating, disability inclusion in healthcare, facilities across the nation. And hopefully we're able to work together training, because now that you've said it, I'm thinking at the back of my head, I think I need to get back on my team and we need to design a curriculum for journalists. How we're going to implement that, we're not certain yet, but I think since it's much needed, it's what we do. So we definitely will take it up. We will take it up. But thank you so very much for the time. And it's really been great speaking with you and getting to learn more about your work and seeing behind the scenes, because we don't really get some of the things you shared here today. We probably won't find this on the internet. So thank you so very much for that. So I don't know if you have any final words for anyone who's watching, who is passionate about some problem at hand as regards to farmers or persons with disabilities who do not have access to certain social programs. Do you have any word of advice, or maybe anyone who is a journalist who is listening would say, oh, I need to work on this problem? What would your advice be for them?
Okay, first I want to appreciate you for having me on this program because
It's
I
an honor.
love talking about what I do, and I know that it tells a lot for journalists to also talk about behind the scene, what they've done, how they
Yeah.
go through things. So one thing I would like to tell journalists who want to go into reporting people with disability or disability inclusion is to educate
Yeah.
themselves. There's no training there for anybody yet, but they can educate themselves by going through Google, reading a lot of books. There are a lot of materials online that they can use to educate themselves and how to even do a lot of
Yeah.
reporting. There are a lot of journalism, yes, there are a lot of journalism materials that they can use to educate themselves. And to give them idea, there are a lot of ideas, there are a lot of things these people are facing and it's not coming out. Nobody's really reporting them. Yes, I just reported Niger State. What about the other states? There are we have 36 states and they are there. So we need people to also to report this, to bring this out, By the time, I'm sure by the time these things are coming up in the media regularly, the government will know that something needs to be done about their plight. So I would like to urge journalists, yes, I know it's not a kind of interesting field that a lot of people want to report on, but I think they can build their interest. Yes, they can build their interest in it. They can build their interest in it, how to interview these people, how to be empathetic to them, not when you, because there's a way you approach them and they can see the way you look at them and they just decide they're not speaking to you. You know, they are very sensitive at that. So you have to know how to approach them, how to interview them, how to speak with them, and the rest. So that skill is needed. And how will you do that? You have to learn it. If you are not being trained, you learn it through reading of materials. So thank you very much. And I hope you will be able to fashion a lot of training for journalists regarding this field.
Definitely. I can't give a certain date as regards when that will be out, but it's definitely something, a curriculum that we will develop at Salt House. I can assure you of that.
And also, I'm always available if you want to reach out to some other colleagues who are reporting on this field. Yes.
Oh, great. That's really wonderful. Thank you so very much, Ms. Justina. That's really
You're welcome.
Wonderful. It's much appreciated. So to everyone who is listening, thank you so much for joining this wonderful episode of the Inclusion Dialogue. And yeah, see you on the next episode. Now, to get more information about the work that we do at Salt House, feel free to reach out to us on our social media platforms at salthouse.africa. And yeah, we look forward to working with you to accelerate the adoption of inclusive practices, not just in Nigeria, but in Africa at large. And bye for now.